So, hi everybody, welcome to my interview with our wonderful guest Ian Clubley this morning. Good morning, Ian.
Good morning, Marie. How are you?
Very good, thank you. And thank you for agreeing to be our guest on our very first Education Week.
Oh, no pressure then, eh?
You'll be fantastic. So, let's get into the interview. So, tell me, Ian, who you are, what do you do?
Okay, so my name is Ian Clubley. I am a self-employed coach. I support education and business professionals, and I'm formerly a teacher. So my background has been in education over the last 14 years prior to leaving education to set up my own business as a coach. What really inspires me as a coach and sort of I suppose gets the juices flowing is helping the people who get stuck, that have got barriers that they need to overcome, because what they want to do is to overcome some of their difficulties, whether it's to be better organised, to be more effective in their roles. So I'm interested in sort of sitting down with them and through discussion, looking at what they've got within them that can really help them to make the improvements that they want to make. And if I'm working with teams, I can do similar work with teams as well as individuals, but I do some work around raising awareness of individual work styles and styles of communication. And then we look at how the team, through understanding the individuals within their team much better, can work towards improvements there as they begin to adapt their styles, so they talk in a language and use an approach that their colleagues can connect with. And the aim is to create a more cohesive team.
That all sounds fantastic. So
that's good.
Learn a bit more about that later on, but I want to ask you, what was your experience like when you was at school?
That was a while ago now. Yeah, well, I really enjoyed school in the earlier years. So depends where you're listening and watching this in the country, but we're in Worcestershire. We have a 3-tier schooling system alongside the primary and secondary 2-tier system, and I went through that three-tier system. So I transferred from first school to middle school at the age of 9, and I really enjoyed that. And what I felt about the middle school system was at age 9, going to a new school that was bigger and you'd have sets for your lessons and things like that. It provided a little bit of stretch that I was ready for. So I grew into that middle school experience really well, and I very much enjoyed it. What I didn't enjoy so much was my high school experience.
Oh, wow, okay.
And not totally sure why, but perhaps I didn't have the sense of direction in terms of where I wanted to go next and in terms of my career. So when I reflect on my school time, I kind of have to think of those two different things, those two different phases, really. And it was the high school experience that, through nobody's fault, I don't think, I didn't really enjoy it as much as I had done previously. But I do think the support, and I know we'll come on to this, but the support that's in place for children of secondary school age now, in terms of where do you want to go, and the research that you can do for yourself, with internet, social media, etc. We didn't have that then. So I think opportunities to explore things and have a sense of direction in where you wanted to go were more limited then than they are now.
I totally agree with that. And I, like you, went through the same sort of 3-tier school system. So have you, because I've always lived in Worcestershire, have you always been at schools in Worcestershire then?
Yeah. Always in Worcestershire, and my jobs within education were Worcestershire schools as well. So yeah.
That's a really nice seamless link there, Ian, into talking a bit more about your career. So if things weren't so great in your high school, how did you end up working in education?
How long you got? Well, so I did my degree a bit later. So I left school at 16 and then worked sort of within the local industries and sort of built myself up that way in terms of getting the career moving. So I started out in sort of transport and distribution, coordinating the delivery network, if you like, for one of the carpet suppliers and manufacturers within Kidderminster. That's where I started. But then I went to do my degree. I went to do my degree in my sort of early 20s, and I did a business degree. And it's about that time that you could see schools changing a little bit and needing to become a little bit more business like. So my wife, who is a teacher, I was getting that insight into education and looking at it from more of a business perspective, really, and understanding how sort of business knowledge could work within the teaching sort of industry. And I think I kind of got the bug then. So after my business degree, I then went on to do my PGCE in primary education. So that then led to 14 years as a teacher from NQT up to head teacher when I left. And so my experience was across Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2. So yes, that's how I got from that to that.
So Catherine, your wife inspired you really then, by the sounds of it.
Yeah, I guess she did, didn't she? She did. But you can see why. I mean, it's immensely rewarding to be a teacher. You know, it's extremely hard work, but it's immensely rewarding. And it doesn't matter what age, whether you're primary or secondary, you are still nurturing that individual. You're nurturing the talent that you've got to work with in your class or in your set if you're a secondary teacher. And that's what it's about. It's about developing young people and helping them to create the opportunities for themselves. And I think when I reflect on teaching, those standout moments are seeing those pupils create those breakthrough moments for themselves where something's a real challenge for them, which I think as a teacher shows you've created and pitched the lesson at the right in the right way when there's challenge there, and they've got to work to overcome the difficulty and find the answer, because there's so much more in that experience than just being able to answer the question. There's a lot of character building that's taking place, and that's teaching for me. That's what it's about. So I used to talk about myself less as a teacher and more of what I termed a facilitator of learning, because you're creating the scenarios and the environment for the children to explore and for them to help find their way through it. And in doing that, I think you're developing individual characters, which is what it's all about.
Absolutely. And you can tell how passionate you are about working with the kids, which is fantastic.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Now, what I would say is, obviously we're October now and schools have been back and they've had massive changes over and effects from COVID, etc., on education over the last probably nearly 8 months, really.
Yeah.
So looking more at that, based on the sort of things that you do in your business, I'm interested, what sort of skills and attributes do you think pupils are going to need, both now and in the future?
Well, there's an easy question, isn't it? Well, the first thing is, I mean, in COVID has been devastating for many families,
Yeah.
on our doorsteps, but across our nation and across the world. And I don't think devastating is overplaying it at all. I've not been connected with anybody that's suffered a loss, but I know there are people out there that have. It's created a lot of opportunities, which I'll come on to in a few minutes. But there's been challenge there, which has enabled people to show their characters, and to show their adaptability. And in education, there are no two schools that will have gone about it in exactly the same way, because what they're doing, they're creating what they need for their environment. And the schools, the leaders, the professionals within it know what's right for their school culture and for the students in their care. I think right now we're going through this period of autumn one, to use teacher speak, with how they break the year down, is very much about looking at the emotional support and the well-being that's going to be needed, and I'll come back onto that in a few minutes. But I think as that gets worked on and the students are supported, I think that's helping the children to build a sense of character that's going to carry them right beyond school and take them further on into the future. And I think we're looking at people who think, hey, I am adaptable, and I am a good communicator, and I can, and I am resilient when I need to be. And much of what we hear about going through this time is the resilience of people, and how adaptable we all are. And yeah, there are people that have found that have found their sort of their sense of humour almost, and how to to cajole people into sort of thinking and acting differently, and showing their talents in different ways. And I think that is going to really help people as they move beyond COVID. And for our children, when they look at that need to be open-minded, to be flexible in their approaches to their schoolwork or to their decisions for, say, university. I think that some of the changes that young adults might be making in their course decisions because of everything that's gone on this year, they're going to have to demonstrate and will show and prove to themselves that they are adaptable. And we're talking about people who will not have one or two careers. They're going to be generations now that throughout their working life, which will be many years, are going to transition between different careers. And so they will need to have transferable skills, obviously. They're going to be resilient, they're going to be adaptable, and they're going to succeed. And I think that's really important.
And I totally echo what you say. I mean, from a personal experience, my elder son, he's had lots of different jobs, all in different industries. And I think, you know, as people experiment with what they want to do with their careers, there will be that sort of moving between jobs a lot more. And I think the resilience that you're looking to develop within your business as a training model would be really valuable for students to learn more about resilience, because there's a lot of wording around, you know, what is resilience. But me and you have had previous conversations where you actually need to dig a bit further into that as a topic, don't you? And give them the skills that they need.
I think so, because it's the word resilience is going to mean different things to different people. And so you're right, as we've said in our discussions, you've got to get beneath that. You know, for you and I, it's important that we do explain what we mean by resilience, and, you know, in our training, what it is we're looking to deliver.
Yeah.
But one of the first things that I need to do with clients in a one-to-one situation or in groups is to get their understanding of what it means. To, you know, what does to be resilient mean? I need more resilience. What do you mean by that? And unpick it. It needs to be unpicked a little bit, and then you go from there.
Yeah, I totally agree. And we have both worked together previously on some projects that I think our listeners will find really interesting. So I know you're a careers and enterprise advisor, as am I, and we've worked together on some projects previously. But can you tell me, for those listeners, what is being an enterprise advisor? So what is that all about, and who do you partner with? What is it?
Okay, so the idea of the enterprise advisor, which is a government initiative, is to be able to connect local businesses and local business representatives with education, and at the moment that works from year 7 upwards. So for the majority of schools in across the UK, that starts at secondary school. But as we've said here in Worcestershire and some other parts of the country, that would include the middle schools as well. So the idea is to support schools in developing careers strategies for their students. So if we go back to earlier where I was saying, hey, when we were at school, I didn't feel there was a great deal in careers support. Well, that isn't the case now, where you have the EA, the enterprise advisors that are closely linked in supporting their schools. They're helping to not do the work for the school. That's not what it's about. It's about being the support link and the go-between, opening the door, making some connections to, not right now, bring business visitors into the school, or children out into industry to have some real experiences of opportunities out there. We can't do that right now, but it is about making those links, and not pigeonholing children into careers, but, you know, opening it up and letting them see lots of different opportunities in different industries. So it broadens their thinking around the possibilities for them in the future.
So how does that actually work in reality then, Ian? Are you working with the pupils in the schools, or are you working with the teachers, or is it a blend of both?
Well, for my experiences, it's been a blend of both. So I'm partnering with a local middle school, Westacre, and in turn, this whole middle school, high school system, they have years 5, 6, and 7. Right. So we're working with the year 7s. Now, the careers lead there, Phil Cotton, who does a great job. He's well on the ball with it. So he's interestingly somebody who had a career prior to going into education. I hope I've got that right, Phil. So he kind of got that sort of business mind himself and has created lots of opportunities. So really much of my role is being that link and supporting him with that.
Yeah.
But as you know, we've both gone in and worked with with the year sevens, so it's created that opportunity for us to work with the children, and I think that's great for the pupils to have that in-class interaction with people from outside. And I know what they've done at Westacre, like many schools, is to have held careers fairs where they've brought in more industry people to run sessions. And you also did one of those, didn't you?
Yeah.
You know, where they've got that industry expert in the classroom, demonstrating what they do and a little bit of Q&A. And I think that's invaluable. I think it's really good.
Yeah, I mean, I would echo what you're saying. So Phil Cotton at Westacre has been really forward thinking, I think, and fantastic careers lead. I mean, I went in and did a talk with the students around a marketing project, and they developed a fantastic Christmas card for me, which was last year's Christmas card. So that was a really fantastic experience. But we've also been in and done other things. So it just shows what they're leading the way at Westacre. So talk us a bit about what we did with the school there.
Okay. So earlier on, I talked about some of my work with teams about improving the team dynamic, I suppose, through communication. So we went in, we adapted some of the work that I would do with adults out in the business world, to help the children to look at their qualities, because much of it was about them understanding themselves and articulating what they're like as a learner. So I'll give an example. So you'll remember these cards.
I do remember. For the sake of people that are listening, can you describe what those cards are, Ian?
Okay, so this is the disc system that I use to help people to understand sort of behaviour and communication styles. And these are two cards from a warm-up activity, which get people to look at a range of sort of personality descriptors, and to collect ones that they think connect with them, that describe them, and then maybe to look to steer clear of ones that they don't think describe them right now, but actually they might describe, in the case of the pupils, that might describe their friend quite well. So they're getting this idea of what they are like. Are they somebody that's a good influencer? They're quite influential. You know, are they somebody that's daring?
Yeah.
Now, I'd be getting rid of that one. I'm not the daring person, so I wouldn't be connecting with that card. Okay, but actually, I'd like to think I'd be connecting with stable. Yeah.
Oh, very much.
Yeah. I think I'm stable, and you know, maybe one of the children would have been drawn to say, actually, I think I'm a really accurate person.
Yeah.
Okay? So it's just trying to help the children to come up with the words that they think describe them really well.
Yeah.
And what came out of that actually was children saying, hey, this is an attribute, this is a characteristic of you, I think you're really daring, and you know, and giving an example which I think is really good for the class dynamics, and you know, demonstrate how children support one another. So what we did with that from there was then to build on that, to look at what that actually meant in terms of their style and their natural way of being. Are they somebody that is very much would rather work on something in detail and on their own and leave me alone to get on with it? Or are they the opposite of that? They want to have lots of different projects on the go, and they want to work with groups of people. You know, do they want to be the team leader? You know, and over the course of the hour that we ran the session, we were able to help the children really describe what they felt they were like.
Yeah.
And how that fits with Phil Cotton's career strategy then is, as industry experts come in and talk about the industry and what it's like to work in the industry, they can think about how well they fit with that based on the work that we did in our session. Yeah. But it's not about pigeonholing, because from this, the children can say, actually, well, I think this describes me at the moment. I am steady, I am accurate, but you know what? I wish I was more of an influencer. Yeah. Yeah. I wish I was more of a decision maker. And then what the school can do, and I know Phil's working on this, he's saying, okay, so what are the attributes that you want to develop? What do you want to work on? Yeah. And so we're helping children to become more adaptable, more flexible, according to the situations that they're in. So in many ways, it's no different to the work that I do with industry, but that's the work with the children is very much, it was careers and enabling them to look at careers with knowledge of who they are as a person, but also, well, what is it I want to do? How can I adapt and build up my skill set so that I'm better placed to enjoy a career in that industry, or to have a go at something different.
So that's really sort of fits in with what we were saying earlier about skills and attributes and what the children need in the future. So it's looking at their own personal development as well, and also about developing skills and attributes to get into careers of their choice in the future. So I think that's really fantastic that you're already doing that work. And I know that we was both really privileged because we also did it at the skills show in Worcestershire at the Chateau Impney. Unfortunately, this year it's not on, but maybe it will return in future years, or maybe even go digital. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, that was also fantastic to speak with the schools and the pupils there.
Yeah, it was, and with taking that to the skills show, the great thing was that we could have that discussion with the youngsters, who then could go around the corner and have an improved discussion with the fellow exhibitors to talk about what it's like to work in that industry, because they've got that knowledge about themselves. And not they didn't necessarily have the knowledge before, but maybe they can articulate a little easier the kind of way that they feel comfortable and prefer to work, and what it means to work in these industries. So I mean, it's a very tiring day, wasn't it? It's a long day.
We had hundreds of kids, didn't we? I think they had
we did
1,000 guests that day.
Yeah, it was really good. Yeah, and I mean, it is a shame that with the current situation, it's probably on hold, but understandable. So.
Understandable, and hopefully it will return in the future, because it is valuable for schools, both for teachers and for pupils. So fingers crossed for that. So moving on now, I want to sort of dig more in about your education background there, Ian. So can you recall a time when you worked, whether it was before you became a head or when you was a teacher, what was the most rewarding time for you?
It's always about the development of the people.
Yeah.
Okay, and you said earlier, the passion is there. That was in an example of working with pupils. But that same drive and passion is there when you're developing your staff. Yeah. The leadership positions, because once you step away from the classroom, right, you're not that lead professional for those 30 children anymore on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And you're nurturing and you're developing your staff so that they can be the very best that that they can be. So, you know, I've got examples of where I've been able to work with my staff to develop them, and they've gone on to become middle and senior leaders, and now, you know, they're passing on the baton, they're supporting other people, and that's great. I think, because I know you were asking me for one particular example, really, and I'd go back to when I was a teacher and was teaching year 6,
Right.
and we were doing, it was a maths lesson, and my style was very much about, let's go through the process, talk me through the process, let's
Yeah.
thinking. One, because you can see where the system for understanding the problem is breaking down, or they can begin to see where they might be able to come up with a more efficient system.
Nice.
And I know we were doing a lesson where it came to a sort of a bit of a feedback part of the lesson. And I said, right, I'm not doing it, I'm stepping back, but I want somebody to come out and do that for me. So there was a lad that volunteered and came out and effectively became the teacher in that part of the, and he was doing the feedback. He chose somebody to feedback on what they'd done, and he stopped and went, whoop, hold on. He said, don't give me the answer, talk me through the process, talk me through the process of what you did. And I thought, wow, that was brilliant, because he was demonstrating exactly how I wanted the children to work, really. It's not all about the answer. It's not all about the answer. It's about the methodology and the process to go through that gets them to that answer. So they've got a much more rounded understanding of their abilities and what they do get and what they don't get. And then you can look at how to improve it. And I think for him to come out and do that, I showed the strength of what we'd got as a class, and the understanding that we'd got, which I think fits with what I was saying about sort of think of teaching as facilitators of learning, really, getting the children thinking on another level or in a different way. So yeah, like that. That's good.
I love that, Ian. That's a fantastic way of demonstrating how empowering you can be within your role as a leader. And I think, you know, that's sort of encouraging tomorrow's leaders, which is a massive positive skill that you have in particular. So thank you for sharing that. And just got one final question before we wrap up our interview today. I'd really like to know, other than your wife Catherine, who works in education, who else have you worked with or would like to work with that has inspired you?
Yeah, I think I'd have to go with my first head teacher when I was working in education.
Okay.
With her. So that lady's name is Kate Hill.
Right.
And what I liked about Kate was, yes, she gave me my first job in education.
Always helpful.
Oh, yes, always going to be popular. But a really assured head teacher, a really good understanding of her school, her pupils and her teachers and the families and the relationships. And I know a lot of that comes with time. You need to be in a school a while to build that up, but it doesn't mean that it'll automatically to be there. And what stood out for me with Kate was she looked beyond her school. She wasn't just interested in what was going on with those stakeholders that I've just named. Yeah. She was interested in the support for the other schools within the local area and the development of the next generation of head teachers. And just to go off down a side road for a second, much of what I do is sort of my mission, if you like, is to ensure that there are enough middle senior leaders coming through for the next generations. Yeah, because the numbers are not strong enough.
Yeah.
We need more people wanting to be in those positions, which is where my coaching and my support comes in. But you know, some of that comes from working with Kate and seeing how, you know, how she cared for and sort of managed and led that process. Really, you know, she was well beyond the school to look at what was going on in other schools and what would be needed for the next generation of leaders to come through. So she was very strategic, and something that I took forward into my roles as a senior leader. I mean, she's really inspired me in that way. But fair to say, that inspiration is carried on into what I now do.
How fantastic, Ian. And she sounds a really inspirational lady. I mean, very forward thinking as well in the collaboration with other schools. I think that, you know, for Worcestershire, what my experience has been is that's a very strong skill that Worcestershire schools seem to have in collaborating and networking with other schools. And yeah, that sounds really positive.
Yeah, I think that my experience is that school collaboration has always been strong. There'll be areas where it isn't, across the country, not the county, where it isn't working so well. But in general, schools have always worked well together. And I say that because we didn't always live in the academies era.
Yeah.
Where, you know, schools will be stronger, schools will work together. Well, actually, they were doing that already.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's important to note that there was really good stuff going on out there prior to the academisation process. Yeah. But yeah, no, it is a real strength.
Well, it's been really insightful, Ian, and I'm sorry, but our half an hour has just slightly ran over this morning.
Oh, you're shutting me up now.
But what I'd like to ask you is, there's going to be people out there that would really love to get in touch with you. How's the best way I can contact you, Ian? Okay,
so drop me an email at ian@icbusinesscoach.co.uk. Okay, so IC, my initials, Ian Clubley. So that's ian@icbusinesscoach.co.uk. If you want more information, you want to check that email address, go to the website, which is icbusinesscoach.co.uk, and there's info there. And yeah, get in touch. We'll have a chat and see how I can help. You know, it's conversations, isn't it? We've gone through a really difficult period. Absolutely. And it'd be great to get working with more schools and to be understanding their situation. Yeah, and a very poignant place to sort of end our interview, Ian. Thank you so much for being a guest today. I hope you've inspired some of our listeners to either contact you and look at your business, or even think about, you know, promoting the careers and enterprise company in their counties or regions. So that's a really positive initiative that's going on across the UK at the moment. So thank you very much. Sorry. You're welcome. Pardon? Final point. Final point. If somebody business is out there listening, then Google careers and enterprise company and see how you can get involved. Definitely. Brilliant way to. It's not a massive time commitment, but it's very rewarding. And massively valuable to pupils, which is the most important thing. Yeah. So thank you very much, Ian. And I'll see you again soon. All right, you take care. All the best. Thanks, bye.